Yo, what's going on, boys? In this video, I'm gonna be talking to you guys about the effects of door-to-door sales that nobody talks about. And the reason I'm making this video is because throughout my journey in door-to-door sales, I became a completely different person, right? And I thought I got into it because I just wanted to make money. I just wanted to, escape the matrix, whatever it is. But throughout this process, right, the person I am now 3 years later compared to the person I was 3 years ago, right, besides the money, right, is completely different. And if you guys do not know who I am, my name is Peyton Vindasius. I went from complete broke, university dropout, to making 7 figures in 3 years, running a door-to-door window cleaning company and sales team. And I make these videos because this is exactly what my younger self would have loved to know when he first started out. So if this could help one person watching, awesome. But throughout this journey of door-to-door sales, if you're anything like me and you're getting into self-improvement and you want to start up your own home service business, whatever it is, selling door-to-door, this process most people get into it because of the money, right? They get into it because they just want to make as much money as humanly possible, which is great. But throughout this journey of you getting better at sales, right, which again is the most transferable skill in the world. Sales is the most transferable skill in the entire world, which is exactly what this video is going to be about. Explain to you guys what actually happens when you get good at this skill set. What happens throughout this journey, this process? What's different between the person that you are when you first start and the person that you end up being, throughout this process, a couple weeks, a couple months, even a couple years, right, into this process when you are consistent. Okay, and so understand that when you're good at sales, right, it means a ton of things. It means that you're good with people. And I'm going to break down everything actually top to bottom right now, okay? Understand sales is the most transferable skill in the world. You make a ton of money, which is awesome, right? That's the main reason people get into door-to-door, is just to make a ton of money, which is great. And when you get good at it and you're consistent, right, you make a fuck ton of money. But next is your confidence, right? And this one's kind of obvious, right? The more money you make, right, the more people you talk to, the more times you give up prices, the more times that you're used to getting rejected, whatever, you build confidence. And confidence simply comes from your understanding that you've been here before and this isn't special, right? When you go to the gym the first time, you feel at a place, you feel like people are staring at you, you feel like you feel like you're not made to be there. You feel like, oh, everyone's like staring at you, whatever it is, right? Understand that everyone has felt that exact emotion and those exact thoughts when they went to the gym for the first time. Even those huge bodybuilders that you see, right? You're like, oh, these guys are huge and like they're super scary. It's like those are like the nicest guys to talk to at the gym. But when they first went to the gym, they felt out of place. They had these same thoughts go in their head as well. So relating this back to door-to-door, you might think, oh, like I'm not, door-to-door is like I'm not very confident at the door. Like you're not supposed to be confident when you first start. And confidence comes from experience, knowing that you've been here before and knowing that this isn't special, right? It's all good. Right. And so number one is the person that you become along this journey. You're not only a lot more confident when you are on the doors talking to new people, but you become a new confident version of yourself. You start walking around with this level of confidence that people are like, who is this guy, right? How did you get so confident? It's because you are used to this, constant, state of getting rejected, right? Door to door is a tough game, right? But you're used to it. You're out there hustling, you're talking to strangers, you're making money, and you get to this point where you understand it's not special, right? Meeting new people and, going out there and going through your pitch and, learning your skill set and providing a service, right? This isn't special, right? This is just like a normal day-to-day thing. And when you have that mentality, you understand that meeting new people and, this confidence comes from just like, this is what I do. This is, I talk to new people every day. I'm good at it, right? And then we're going to go through kind of like what else changes here. But you develop this new sense of confidence that a lot of people do not have nowadays, right? And that just comes from the experience that you get of going through this process of door-to-door, of getting rejected, going through the sales process, right? Selling people on a service, right? And so the biggest thing that changes throughout this entire process is your confidence. Okay. The next thing that will change is your ability to perform under pressure and keep a calm mind, right? When you're on the doors and you're getting rejections, right? You're getting a lot of people saying, no, we're not interested. No, we have a guy, right? And people saying, oh, I got to go, like, thanks for coming by, but I got to run, right? This allows you to stay in a positive, not only positive state of mind, but you get to a point where you're so used to coming up with these ideas on the fly, right? Your ability to critically think is, for example, if you were to like read an essay in school, right, and then you had a bunch of questions about it at the end, at the very bottom of like who was the main character, what was the moral of the story, what did they learn, what's the character development, whatever it is, right? Your ability to critically think is extremely important, and this is something that also improves the more that you do door-to-door sales, right? The more that you're into it, the more consistent you are, the more people you talk to over a period of time. And so your ability to perform under pressure gets a lot better, right? To keep a calm mind, to understand, okay, there's a problem, all good. We're going to take the homeowner down the process, right? And this is so transferable over all of like life, for example, right? If you, I can't really think of like a moment where like super like high pressure besides like sales, but anytime throughout the process where maybe you go through the entire thing, you're giving the price out, you get miss, it comes down all the way down to $249 for all the windows, frames and sills, and then maybe her husband comes outside and he's like, hey honey, we have to go, like we have to leave, we have an appointment, we got to run. And then she's like, okay, yeah, thanks for coming by. Like, yeah, totally cool, miss. I just noticed one thing, sir, if you want to step out real quick, I'll just kind of show you, and then I got to run. Like, no, we're good, I'll just kind of show you, and then it kind of has to get done, I'll just show you super quick, right? Your ability to come up with these things on the fly and keep a calm state of mind, right, and a calm your body language, your tonality, right, as you're under pressure is going to allow you to succeed, especially in obviously door to door, but in life as a whole, is your ability to stay calm when things are, when you're under pressure. Okay. The next thing is learn to take things less serious, right? You get to a point where not a lot of things will, catch you off guard, right? When you're on the doors, there's a fuck ton of things that will happen, right? You get the cops called on you, right? Maybe you get, you get cussed at, right? I mean, I don't know, this never happened, but maybe you get a gun pulled on you in the States, right? Whatever it is. But there's things that will happen on a day-to-day basis which you were not prepared for, right? Which you were like, okay, like this is brutal, like, this is like, so what, this is like, why is this happening to me? Whatever it is. And so as you go through this process of, door to door, you begin to take things a lot less serious because you understand that it doesn't really matter, right? And when something weird happens on the door, like maybe you fumble your words, or you said something that was kind of weird or awkward at the door, right? Your mind will come up and you're like, why did I say that? It was so weird, whatever. You're starting to think about it, 5, 10, 15 minutes later, the homeowner already forgot, right? They don't really care anymore, right? And so understand that you will take things a lot less serious the more that you go through this process of of getting out there, talking to strangers, meeting new people, because you understand that it doesn't really matter that much, and people just typically forget the more that you typically forget things, right, as soon as you leave. Right. The next one is stop overthinking. You get used to meeting new people and understand that most interactions you have with new people mean absolutely nothing. Right. And this is kind of true what I was saying before, where you go to the door and maybe you mess up your words, you fumble, you stutter, whatever it is, you feel like you made a fool of yourself. You feel like the homeowner's thinking about this interaction that you came to the door and you gave your pitch and they said no. You think that they're thinking about you all day. Bro, they forgot the second they closed the door. Okay, I promise you. And so the more that you talk to people, especially in this game, right? You might talk to 50 to 100 people every single day, new people every day. You understand that most interactions mean absolutely nothing, and that people forget that you even came by a couple seconds, maybe even a couple minutes after they close the door and you leave and go to the next home. So do not take it so serious and stop overthinking every little thing that you do. Right, you're a salesman. You go by, you solicit your service, whatever. They say no, or you're good, and then you just go to the next door. Right, it's all good. Right, door-to-door salesmen, they come by all the time. But overall in life, stop overthinking these things, because the more that you do door to door, the more that you understand at the very end of, maybe you've done this a couple months, right, even maybe in a couple years now, right, it's not that big of a deal. Right, even in life, if like, I don't know, you're in public and you're walking and like you trip on something and people look over and they see you like trip, right, you might think, oh my gosh, they're thinking about me all day. It's like, bro, they do not give a fuck. Right, thinking about a time where maybe you were in that situation and you saw someone do something embarrassing. You're like, oh, what the hell, right? And then you're like, okay, whatever. Right? Things happen, right, all the time, right? And then you forgot about it like literally 2 seconds later. Right? And so you stop overthinking these little things in life the more that you're in this game, because you realize that not these things don't matter. People just forget about things anyway, right? And so Next is you learn about human psychology and why humans do what they do, right? An example is moving away from pain and closer to pleasure, okay? And so what's really cool about sales as a whole is the sales process will overall always be the same, right? Yeah, there's like different lines and like different tactics, but the principles of sales never actually changes, right? People are always going to be moving away from pain and closer to pleasure. There's always going to be the Jones effect of where people feel like they're being left out. If there's a bunch of homes on the street that already had it done, they're like, oh, John's doing it, Carrie's doing it, oh, Mary's doing it. Oh my gosh, like, yeah, we should probably do it as well, right? There's always going to be these certain triggers of, homeowners feel like they're being left out, creating that urgency, you dropping social proof of all the neighbors you're doing, right? And so what's really cool, and another thing is when you go into the price, right? So yeah, miss, it's normally $349, comes down to $249, right? Knowing that the price is usually this, but because we're here today, comes down to this. You're creating urgency, you're building your value extremely high, windows, frames, and sills, top to bottom, right? It comes down to $249 windows, frames, so you get reiterate the value, right? Lot of value, ton of value, low price, right? There's these things that humans are naturally gravitated towards when they say yes to certain things, right? Do they buy logically or are they buying emotionally, right? You want to integrate both of these things. So you learn about the psychology that goes behind humans. Like, why do we say the things we say? Why do we say no when someone comes to the door and tries to sell us something? Why do we hate to be sold, but we love to buy things, right? And it's because the psychology of humans never changes, and this is something you learn the more people you talk to, because you understand why people say what they say after they give you certain objections or certain things, certain questions on the doors, like, hey, how do you guys do the windows, right? Maybe she's super into it, right? She's super into you getting the windows done, right? You're like, hey, we're doing the windows frame sills, comes to $249, right? And then she's like, okay, awesome, how do you guys do the windows? And she's like, yeah, we use the ladders. You're like, no, I don't want to get it done anymore. It's like, what? You wanted to get it done a second ago, and then I told you we're using the ladders, and then you don't want to get it done, right? You're like, okay, why did that happen? Maybe she had a bad experience in the past. Maybe her husband fell off a ladder. Maybe her family member died on a ladder, whatever it is, right? And so there's certain like key words that will either trigger an emotion, a good emotion or a bad emotion, by certain things that you say on the doors, right? Again, this all comes back to the psychology of humans and how we work and how we work and how we're wired, okay? And so overall, this process of you going through the door to, through door to door, top to, over the next couple of days, weeks, months, years, right? You understand a lot more of the psychology that goes into humans and why we do and say and act the way that we do. Okay, the next thing that changes the more that you get into door-to-door sales, right? The effects of door-to-door that no one talks about is the fact that you get really good at negotiating, right? You get really good at understanding, your value and your time that you put into something, right, will equivalent to, like, let's say this amount of money. So you understand what your time is worth, right? When you're buying something on Amazon, you understand if it's a good deal or a bad deal, right? Is this a good, am I getting my money's worth, right? You understand as well that money is not about the amount of time, is not a time factor, it's a value factor. It's about what you're getting for the money, right? And so you'll spend your money on things that you deem worth it, because you understand that when you go to the door and you solicit your services, you bring your value extremely high, your price extremely low, you make it seem like such an amazing deal from the homeowner, allowing them to say yes, right? You want to buy things in that same way, and those are the things that you look for when you want to purchase something on Amazon. You go to the store, right? Maybe you go get some food, right? You maybe look at steak. If I look at a Denny's steak, for example, and it's like $100, like, what the fuck? It's $100 for Denny's steak? But if I go to, let's say, like a Keg or, a super high-end restaurant where they make really good steaks and it's $100, like, okay, is that a good deal or a bad deal? Okay, look, the other steak is $150, this one's $200. Okay, their best steak's $500. Okay, $100 is like pretty good deal for, the steak that I'm getting, because it's a value thing, because I'm getting a lot, right, for a little, right? A lot of the steaks are $500, maybe $1,000, whatever it is. This steak down here is $100. Now, is the value good enough, right? What's the value proposition? So you begin to equivalent money to value and not money to time. Most people get paid hourly, so they believe that, oh, if I work, a certain amount of hours, I get paid a certain amount of money, which is how everything should work, right? No. It's not how an oil change should work. It's not how, if you call an electrician or like a plumber, right? They might charge you $100, $300, $400, $500, and then it only took some like 15, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour, right? Oh my gosh, you got paid $300 an hour. But it's like, no, there was labor costs, right? There was them having to market, them having to get good at their job. There was a bunch of factors which all encompassing is value, right? What am I getting for what am I paying for? And so this allows you to negotiate and understand that value is equivalent to, or money is equivalent to value, not time. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk to you guys about in this process of, the effects of door-to-door sales is that it was never about the destination. It was always about the journey, right? You become a completely different person throughout this journey of door-to-door sales. Now, you can either, get good at a skill set, right? Make a bunch of money, and then continue having these bad habits of, maybe you play too much video games, or maybe you smoke weed or drink alcohol, or, maybe you do too much of it, whatever it is, right? You can continue having these bad habits, or you can focus all of your time, effort, and energy into getting insanely good on the doors and prioritize your health, right? Prioritize your business, the amount, your skill set, right? And throughout this process is you get really good at obviously working under stress, right? Which is something that we talk about, but you learn how to, hire employees, you learn how to hire salesmen, how do I pay these guys? You learn about taxes, and you learn about, all these different aspects of a business. Like, what is a business? You got marketing, you got the fulfillment, you got the sales, right? You have all these different aspects of, what it takes to run a business, right? Now, if you're doing a door-to-door, if you're running door-to-door through like a pest control, like an agency, just focus on sales, because you don't have to worry about the fulfillment or the marketing or anything like that. You just have to sell, get the deals, and you get paid. But if you run your own business through door-to-door sales, you learn all these other aspects, which I might make an entire new video on, is like the things that you learn as a business owner, because it is a lot different than just running door-to-door, right? But I wanted to focus this video on the things that you learn and the effects of door-to-door sales outside of just the money, because there is a lot. So throughout this process, you become a completely different person. And if you were to simply just make the money, you're still the same person, but you have a lot of money. So if you're a nerd, you make a lot of money, now you're a super nerd, right? But if you go through the process of getting better, self-improvement, you go to the gym more, you eat more, like healthy, right? You get better at your skill set, and you allow this to affect all the other aspects of your life, of getting more confident, being able to perform under pressure, right? Learn to take things less serious, stop overthinking things, right? You become a better version of yourself, right? And now you're someone who, it was about the journey, because you grew throughout this process. You're not just someone who went out there, sold some doors, made some money, and now you're just the same person with a little bit more money. Like, no, you are a completely different version of yourself throughout this process of door-to-door sales. So if this video helped like one person, right, maybe get into door-to-door, or want to start their own business, awesome, right? But this is a couple things I would have loved to know when I first started. Like, damn, like, it's not just about the money, it's all these other aspects of your life that will get better the more that you do it. So if you guys did enjoy this video, please let me know down below. I'll be sure to make more in the future, but I will see you guys in the next one.